Sup everyone, DarkScream217 here, and today I'm going to talk about Persona 3 FES. I said in my Persona 4 video I was going to check the game out. I already bought it, because if I didn't check the game out, people would recommend, actually people were already recommending me to check out Persona 3, specifically Lance and Magus. I didn't have any interest in checking out Persona 3, but then curiosity got the best of me. I said, oh, what the hell, why not? And I found it at a GameStop for about $30, which is actually not that bad of a deal. Picked it up and played it the next day. And it's really hard for me to talk about the game and what problems I had with it, because these were problems that were obviously addressed in Persona 4. And as a result, it just feels weird that I went backwards with this one. I played Persona 4 first, then I played Persona 3. In fact, this video is going to be a response to my first one on Persona 4. But and these, like I said before, some of the complaints I had were addressed in the fourth game, and they were even addressed in an updated PSP port of the game, Persona 3 Portable. Regardless, I still really like this game. I had a blast with it, and I even took my time on it more on this game rather than Persona 4. Persona 4, I actually went through it in a couple of weeks, and Persona 3, I think I took a whole month with it, which is a good thing because there's also an additional 30-hour-esque epilogue that was added to this version of the game. Persona 3 FES was a expansion pack to Persona 3, but you could still go into this game. Without having to play the first Persona 3. And for those who played Persona 3, data can actually be transferred onto FES, which is actually a pretty neat thing. However, as I'm going to talk about this game, this time there will be some spoilers into it. So if you guys haven't really played or completed the game, I wouldn't recommend watching the rest of this video, because I am going to give out some very important plot details, because one of them, expresses a concern in a case of logic. But since I did like this game, I'm going to get to the cons first, then move on to the pros. The first con I have is regarding the battle system of the game. You do not have direct control over other party members in the game. You only have control of your character, the main character, the blue-haired cowboy dressing emo-looking kid. In the manga and everywhere else, he's known as Minato Arisato. You can name him however the hell you want, because silent protagonist is supposed to be a reflection of you, yada yada yada, like most Shin Megami Tensei games. But as for the other party members, they're completely AI controlled, and the only thing you can do is give them tactics, which are to act freely, support, direct full assault, or target an enemy. That's all fine and nice, but every 1/5 of a chance they may do something that you rather them not do. Like, I'd rather just give them I'd just rather have direct controls and give characters like certain attacks and tactics, like Yukari, heal me, or Junpei, cast fire spell on that mofo. Now, the AI is pretty competent, very supportive, but like I said, sometimes they just don't do what you want them to do. Like, whenever a character suffers a good chunk of damage, instead of casting a high-level healing spell, they'll just throw a medicine item at them, which only cures about 50 HP, which is not going to be enough for your party members. So I kind of facepalm at that, and I was tempted to sell my medicine because of that. Also, I like exploiting my enemies' weaknesses, because when you do, they get knocked down, and you get an extra turn, and you get extra turn for every enemy weakness you exploit. And if all the enemies are knocked down, you get to do full assault, which has like a very high chance of finishing them off quickly. It's like, alright, everyone's down, stomp them in the nuts, go! And, cartoon cloud smoke effect, everyone's out. Now, sometimes my party members do that, but most of the time they would just hit the enemy with their weakness, and then just follow up with a melee attack. that's not how I like to roll. I just rather just do full assault most of the time. Another con I have is it's a pretty minor one, and it got addressed in Persona 3 Portable. Is that you can't really social link with the other party members except for the female ones, and I don't think you can social link with Aegis. I'm not entirely sure. You can with Yukari and Mitsuru, and I know Fuka for sure because I maxed out hers. But you really can't social link with Junpei, Shinjiro, Akihiko, or Koromaru. They're just. I just. Which kind of blows because in Persona 4, when you social link with the other members, they actually have additional tactics you can use. Not in the case of Persona 3. You actually social link with, like I said, the female characters and a few side characters from exploring the high school setting as well as Tetsumi Port Island. Like, you can hang out with some fat guy, the artist, the kid Keisuke, who kind of looks like a character I've seen from Evangelion, and some old couple that runs a bookstore. Apparently, you can't buy books in this game, but you can social link with the members of that bookstore. But that's just a very minor complaint, and like I said, got addressed later on. One of the other problems I have with this game, and this is actually regarding the story as well as some of the gameplay. Early in the game, you encounter a former member of Cease. That's the name of your squad in the game, by the way. His name is Shinji, and he quit being a member due to a tragedy that happened, I think it was 2 years ago in the game's time. I'm not entirely sure. But later in the game, he comes back for about one whole month of the game's time, and he encounters Ken Amada after you defeat one of the Arcana bosses outside of Tartarus. I think it was on the October 4th date. He encounters Ken Amada because Shinji was responsible for Ken's mother's death, and conversation, this and that. It turns out Shinji was dying because of some persona controlling medication. And one of the antagonists, Takaya, a member of Strega, who looks like a psychotic Jesus, shoots him twice, and Shinji dies. My problem with this is that it's the same problem with Eris, or Eris, however you pronounce that chick from the flower girl from Final Fantasy VII. It's when she died, and most hardcore gamers will figure this out. It's just a contradiction in logic, because if Shinji, by the way, he was dying, all the other party members come up there, and I'm like, why can't you guys use a healing spell? He's slowly dying, but can't you guys use a healing spell? See, it's one of those things where the game's cinematics contradicts the game logic, you know what I'm talking about? So that kind of bugged me for a little while. And even when he dies, there's still there's still like life recovery items and even life recovery magic. Oh well, that was just something that kind of irked me for a while. Another problem I had was in the epilogue story, The Answer. You play as Aegis instead of the main character, and she ends up getting the wild card, and she could be able to summon multiple personas just like the protagonist in the original game, The Journey. However, there's a complete lack of a compendium, and it just kind of screwed things up. And the only way you could get personas is if you can obtain them in the shuffle time system, which is after every battle you get to pick a card that could give you a persona, and you can fuse the personas still, but like I said, there's no compendium, so you can't really get some of the good personas right away. And the answer, I know the Shin Megami Tensei games are difficult, but man, was this BS hard. It really was. I was actually questioning if I ever get to go back to the shop about an hour into the game. But luckily you do. Now, for another con, again, gameplay wise, is that they put a physical condition system. All your character, as well as all your party members, have a condition system that can range from great to sick. And this prevents grinding in a dungeon. Because if you fight too many battles, you or one of your party members will get tired, and if you get tired, you get a greater chance of getting a critical and getting your ass kicked by the shadows, and you'll freaking die if you keep this up. So once you get tired, you have to leave the Tartarus. One of your party members, whoever's tired, will leave, and you'll have to spend the rest of the following day in the tired system, which isn't so bad, but it kind of gets a little more insane. If you decide not to visit Tartarus and you want to visit the following day, you could spend the rest of the night either sleeping early or studying to increase one of your social stats, your academics. And when you do select the studying for your academics, you'll be like, okay, you study, your academics increase, but every so often, it will follow up by saying, however, you are stuck on the worst subject, you're no longer feeling great, you're tired, you're depressed, you hate life, okay, yeah, fuck you. And I just found that kind of annoying. I really did. You can recover if you sleep early in the middle of class, which will cover your system, but like I said, the academics is actually the most painful thing to raise up in that game, out of the 3 social stats. And I was like, really? Why would you put this, especially when you need to level up and this game's kind of challenging enough as it is? Alright, now we can move on to the pros. Wow, that's a lot to talk about regarding cons, but let's see if I can cover just as much on the good parts of the game that I really like. Despite the lack of the direct control option for your party members, the battle system gameplay is still solid. One of the things I really like, though, is that there's a command system when you explore the Tartarus dungeon. You can tell other members to explore the other areas. You can either tell them to take on other shadows if you don't feel like going through battles, or you could just tell them to explore to see if they can find the access point or the next floor of the dungeon, and they'll find some items for you every once in a while. So I thought that was a neat little feature. Another thing I liked in the battle system, and how the summoning personas work in this game, is that most of the characters have evokers, which are these magic items that look like guns, and they have to shoot themselves in the head with the evokers to force out their personas. I thought it was extremely silly and very controversial at first, but then I actually kind of like it, especially when the main character, when he summons his persona, he just takes the gun, he spins a few times and then shoots himself in the head like a freaking cowboy, which is probably why he's dressed like that in the first place when you explore the dungeon. Another thing I like is also regarding battles in the game. They have an analysis system very early on in the game. In Persona, if you press L1 and observe the enemy, they don't give out all the weaknesses right away or anything. However, if you do it in Persona 3 and select an enemy, Mitsuru or Fuka, depending on how far you progress in the game, will okay, give me a few seconds, I'll analyze the enemy, and you can just guess from there. But it takes them it takes them about 2 turns. Not your turns, not your turns, but whether the enemies or characters' turns or whatever. Like I said, it's pretty quick, and then they'll give out the weaknesses and strengths right away, so you can know what to do with them. And if you actually analyze the enemy and figure out the weakness, and then they have a weakness that one of your party members can exploit, they'll exploit it right away. Another thing I like is that there's only 3 social stats to build up. In Persona 4, I believe there were 5, and this one is just only 3. You got your academics, which is your knowledge, your smarts, your charm, and your courage. That's all you have to worry about, and they're quick to level up, max out right away. That way you can focus on doing other things in the game. I just thought that was a little more helpful and convenient. Another positive is, like in Persona 4, I actually do like this cast of characters of Persona 3 just as much. Um, Vic Mignogna, or however you pronounce his last name, the elder Elric brother from Full Metal Alchemist, the English voice actor for that guy, actually voices a character I like. Um, Junpei Iori, he's of the Magician Arcana, just like Yosuke Hanamura, and he's pretty similar to Yosuke in various ways. The big difference, though, I notice, is that while Yosuke is pretty cool with you in Persona 4 from the very beginning, Junpei is alright with you. However, when you were elected leader for the Tartarus exploring or dealing with the shadows, Junpei got seriously upset about that. And he's kind of more reckless and irresponsible than Yosuke, especially with the first major boss battle on the train. He seems to like Leroy Jenkins right through the subway train, and kind of irritates everybody. And it's like, well, and by the way, there was a time limit to that boss battle too. You have to defeat the final boss before the train crashes. Thankfully, you reunite with him before that battle happens. But that's Junpei. But the character I really like his design. He's got a baseball cap on, and he swings it, and his sword, he swings it like a baseball bat because apparently his childhood dream was to be a baseball player. I just like that character's overall design as well. Another character I like to mention, and I'll just move on from there, is one of your party members is a dog, a Shiba Inu breed by the name of Kuromaru. And the character himself is basically an homage to that Japanese dog, Hachiko, the one that waited for his master, even though he passed away without his knowledge. That character basically almost has the same backstory verbatim, except I think his master was a priest. I think Hachiko's master was a scientist. I think. I'm not sure. But it's basically that character, and he's a Persona user, go figure. And his persona is Cerberus. And he's actually one of the he's a representation of the Strength Arcana, and I really like this character a lot, which kind of bugs me why there's no social links with the party members in this version of the game, because that character needed more development. As you can tell, I'm kind of a dog lover. But yeah, one of the party members is a dog, which I thought was pretty awesome. Another pro, gameplay, again. Love the soundtrack. Never got tired of the fight music. Mass Destruction, that's the basic battle music. I also love the first song that plays when you're at Gekkoukan High School. I thought that was a pretty catchy tune. Love the various boss music that they have for the game. They have like one boss music for all the bosses in Tartarus. They have like one boss music for all the major full moon boss battles. And I think they have they also have a boss music for some of the human antagonists for the game, a group called Strega. They have their own little specific boss music, which I thought was pretty awesome. And their boss music I really likes a lot. It has a really rocky guitar to it. Most of the other songs have like a kind of bizarre hip hop soundtrack to it too. And I really do like Burn My Dread, which is the opening to the Persona 3 the Persona 3 opening. And they also have like a remix version for the very, very last boss battle, which I thought was a pretty catchy tune. And it's such a shame that couldn't have been the boss battle before it, because that boss battle lasts an hour, and it was so... it was pretty stressful. I swear. And I was fighting that boss in the middle of the night too. If I lost, I probably would have never gotten any sleep. Seriously, it was pretty tough. Another thing I like, despite my little Shinji complaint, I really did enjoy the story. I really wanted to see what happens next. It's not a murder mystery plot like Persona 4, which was something more I do enjoy more. But Persona 3's story is actually pretty damn good. The story to this one is that it turns out that a little experiment that happened 10 years prior to the game's time a major accident occurred which resulted in creating two things. One of them is the Dark Hour, which is this hidden 25th hour where it occurs at midnight. Everything's frozen in time, which is kind of weird how I explained that, but yeah, everything's frozen in time except for those who have awakened their persona. Everyone else is transmogrified and they're frozen and they look like coffins. Everything looks painted green. There's blood stains all over. It's a pretty creepy looking scenario, and shadows run amok and like to wreak havoc and what have you. Also, what happens at the Dark Hour is that at the high school, a mysterious tower by the name of Tartarus appears, and that's your little side dungeon where you can go to level up and what have you before you fight the shadows every full moon of the game or so. Yeah, every full moon there's like an Arcana shadow that the cast have to go the C's. I think they were known as the Student Executive Execution Squad. I forgot what it's SEES, or C's for short. That's the name of your party member, which consists of you, Yukari, Mitsuru, Akihiko, and Junpei. Later in the game, you have Ken, Shinji, who only lasts for a little while because he dies, Kuromaru, and the anti-shadow suppression weapon Aegis, who is an android lady. Another character I liked. And they have to defeat there's apparently 12 of these shadows that appear every full moon, and they have to eliminate them. However, the plot thickens after that. Gonna try to leave it at that for now. And like I said, it was a really good story. It's pretty damn slow at first, but it picks up later on. It was pretty good. I don't know what else to say about it without giving too much away. Two more things I like, then I'm going to try to wrap this up. The tone of the game. I was told that this Persona 3 was a pretty dark game, and it is darker in comparison to Persona 4. Actually, Persona 4 was very light in tone compared to every other Shin Megami Tensei game, but Persona 3 was dark, but I didn't think it was too dark. Because, well, I've been playing Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne now, and that game was definitely 10 times darker. But I thought the tone was dark, but I didn't think it was too broody or too emo or anything like that. And I did like how the game ended in both the journey and the answer. Like I said, I'm not going to give away too much, except that the ending to the journey reminds me of a mix between El Hazard and Dragon Ball Z. You might get those two once you actually see it for yourself. So yeah, at the end I really did enjoy Persona 3 despite some of the problems I had with it. And I do want to check out Persona 3 Portable, but I also want to check out Persona 4 The Golden. I just need to get my hands on a PS Vita first. Yeah. I got nothing else to say. I may check out the first two Persona games, I'm not sure. But I'm hoping Persona 5 doesn't suck. That's all I can say. Well, that's it. Leave a comment if you wish. Darkscreen217 signing out. I'm a fan of Persona now.